I'm Maya. She's A. Born and raised in Atlanta. Got into music just because I was like bored one day and like my friends were DJing and I was like, oh, I can go see this, and kind of just been stuck in it ever since. I like grew up in the suburbs, like pretty much wholly. So like DeKalb County, like Latonia is like where, but every year we come to the city. I feel like there's a type of queerness that like only exists in Atlanta because of it's still like in the South, but it's like this like bubble in the South that like allows queerness, has allowed queerness for a little bit longer than anywhere else. So exists really like purely out here, which I appreciate. Pretty much every summer and then every October for Pride, and kind of just like is what caused me to like fall in love with like the city and the people in the city, and like the queer community specifically in the city is like has always been my through my mom has always been my like main connection to the city. So I think I'm just like really connected with the queer community and like the queerness that like exists out here that I feel like doesn't exist really anywhere else. Lately, film and old digital cameras. I like have experimented a little bit with like the newer stuff, but I've honestly find it a little bit too complicated, and like I like mistakes and flaws and like it being able to mess up, and like not being able to correct it like in any major way. I'm a little bit of like a sadist where like I kind of enjoy like getting an empty roll back. Like I don't enjoy it, but at the same time there's something like special about like putting so much time into it and then it's ceasing to exist. It's like a nightmare like no other, but it's actually like, I feel like it's so much fun. Like one, it kind of teaches you a little bit about learning from your mistakes, like you mess up on film once and like you really don't mess up again, but two, it's just like it leads to like I think some of the like most interesting things that you wouldn't get if you were like shooting something where you could like immediately look at it right after. I feel like you have to like not take yourself too seriously, right? Like you have to understand that at the end of the day you're just like some nerd with a camera, like that's all I am. It's just like a nerd with a camera who like wants to document stuff and like thinks they have like an eye and like tries to like find my favorite parts of the scene and just like document that, so a big thing I'm like on is like the reason I'm like yeah how we are like, and like I feel like it only makes sense from like a very like close intimate point of view, from like afar it like the faces of the people's faces and like emotions that are going on when certain things are playing. I'm a big fan of Malware Cafe. Those are like the homies. So like anytime there's malware, anything, I'm there. Big fan of Saturday TL. And honestly, other than that, it's just like DJs. Like I feel like everything else, like definitely of lately, has just been getting a little bit overplayed, So like whenever Final First Jules is playing somewhere, I'm there. Whenever Stefan Ringer is playing, I'm there. If I can see Ashley Chooch anywhere, like I'm going to see him. Ross, like I love Ross, is one of my favorite DJs. The homies Marina and Ashani, so Nerd Boink and Cupid. Yeah, whenever they're DJing, like I'm there. I love seeing Adonis DJ, Hot Little Daddies. Like I feel like I've moved out of like any kind of affiliation, and I'm just trying to like see my friends play. I think like in the right spaces, there's been a lot of intention of lately of like moving or like trying at least to like integrate leftism into the partying scene in a way that's like really, I feel like intentional, like there's a lot of like intention into like taking the right steps and like making this be like something that isn't like capitalistic and like greedy at like the core of it. I feel like there's a type of like dedication to not only like the party itself and like what the party means, but like the individual people in the community. Diving further into that is like super important. I feel like we also need to give up the nostalgia. Like it's not the 90s anymore, and like that's cool, it's fine, but it's also like give it up, like try something new. It's like I get the past is cool, but like you're supposed to learn from it, not just like want to live in it constantly, So I feel like coming up with like fun, new, current ideas is like super important. and like giving up like what an old sense of like a rave or a party or like an event is, and like reinventing what these spaces like can be. A lot of times for me, photography ends up being like super personal, you know, and it's something I share because I like the attention a little bit. But I'm mostly like, whenever I post pictures, like I'm posting them for myself, I think, in like a really weird way, and like this is just something I did, and like this is a way for me to like isolate these things, you know. So thinking about other people thinking about my work is like really hard, and like reason I've like really gravitated towards like the more candid side of things is that like you don't look as weird as you think you do, you know? Like you're thinking a little bit too hard about yourself, and I think that like by taking a lot of candid pictures, specifically in like a party sense where you're like a little bit like not thinking about yourself a lot, but I think you just don't look as weird as you do. You actually look amazing, and like you look great, you look fine. And even outside of like a party sense, in like day-to-day life, I feel like people, even myself included, like think about themselves and like how they look to other people so much. But like when you're in like a state of like not thinking about that because you're like so focused on dancing or like so focused on music, like you look fine, you know?